Well, good evening, everyone, for another evening of Brian Live. Got a very, very special guest this evening. Angie McIntosh joins us on the show, the first female guest on Brian Air in total, actually, so very cool. And it's really great to have Angie on. For those of you who don't know who Angie is or what she does, she's actually the wife of an ex-colleague of myself and Ryan's. She is a coach, and she's offered her expertise and support to any of the aviators out there that are battling with these unprecedented times we find ourselves in. I saw a post by her husband on Facebook a while ago, and it was basically saying, my wife is involved in the emotional coaching side of things. She's offered her support. If anyone needs support, please call on her. Here's the link, click on it, and off you go. Which, when I read, I was very taken aback with. We found at the beginning how difficult it was. You want to offer support, but you've actually got nothing tangible to offer. And here was a young lady, not even a pilot herself, offering her support. And I thought that was really, really wonderful. A few aviators have taken her up on that wonderful offer, and I know she's making a difference. She will continue making a difference because we are punting her brand every week. She's a wonderful, wonderful lady, as you'll see shortly. Angie McIntosh, fantastic to have you on Brian Air Live.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to chatting to you all. And thanks for the work you've put in as well. I know you're putting positive vibes out there. And I think the more we can get the positive vibes out and the more people we can reach, hopefully we can help people to get through these tough times.
Yeah, ultimately, that's what it's all about, being positive. And I heard a wonderful thing earlier today. They were referring to a cabin depressurization in an aircraft. If you're a passenger, you're advised to put your own oxygen mask on first, because being useless, being unconscious in the cabin is useless to everyone. And I feel that's kind of, it's one thing being positive, it's one thing being motivational, but you kind of have to know what you're talking about. And I know when we've spoken in the past, because we've spoken a few times, I had a few questions for you, and it was nice to actually hear it from someone with a real professional answer. Sometimes you require a bit of a delicate touch to certain questions that we get asked along the way. So now it's very easy. All I do, I refer them to your link, and they can talk to Angie instead of me having to chat to them. So really great to have you. I'd like to actually say part of the team now, because that's how I see you, and it's definitely not going to be the last time we speak. And I know when I said to the crew here that we've got Angie on the show, Brett was chuffed about that, because what you speak and Brett's angle on things are very, there's a lot of synergy there. So Brett, over to you for some probing questions to Angie.
Angie said I'm not allowed to ask probing questions, so it's not going to be that. Now, Angie, it's great to have you on board. It really is. We haven't had a chance to talk up until 5 minutes before the show, so I'm really keen to just get a little bit deep and discuss, see what you do, where you can help, because we've had a lot of when Brian says we have we push positivity and we push support. And we had Mike Mason on, and he was just talking about support can be commenting on a comment for someone who started a new business, pilot who's done something different, written an article, exposed himself to the struggles he's going through, to someone actually even purchasing some of his products. So support is, there's a big base where you can pull from when it comes to support. But Brian was talking about something earlier about that, taking the mask, putting the mask on yourself before you help anybody else. So that for me was an interesting one, because that, that touches on selfishness. So I'd love to just start the conversation around that, because a lot of people struggle with that. They have a problem saying, I'm going to focus on me.
Yeah.
Everybody step aside. And, once I'm ready, then I will welcome you in, which is not always taken very nicely. So I'd love your view on that, but also just about you. Maybe you want to tell everyone about you first.
Sure. I'm busy studying my honors in psychology at the moment, but that was taking a bit long for me to actually get to the point where I could really help people. So I did an NLP life coaching course in the meantime, just to be able to reach out and have some practical tools to help people. And also I'm studying philosophy at the moment, which we actually touched on that subject today, about the perceived selfishness of self-care, of putting yourself first, of putting that mask on and making sure you're okay before you can help others. And the general consensus of that was, people kind of tend to shy away from that because of that stigmatism of the selfishness that's attached to it. But in essence, we can't really reach out to help others if we're not okay ourselves. And there's many ways that we can be working on ourselves while loving all those in our lives still, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'd like to maybe just chip in here if you don't mind. Sorry, Brett, but we spoke about it briefly last week amongst the three of us, just after our little interview with Ian. After the show, we were chatting to him, and he also said something that I think touched a nerve with the three of us. Was he's managed to find a flying job with Semair again, and he's sort of getting back on his feet. But with that, he said, comes a sense of survivor guilt. And I think that's a very real thing, because it's kind of in sync with what we're talking about now, if I'm not mistaken. There is that element of like, well, shucks, I've managed to find something. I'm getting back on my feet. But you start feeling a little bit too bad to talk about that amongst your peers who haven't had the same sort of stroke of luck as you have. And then it kind of, I don't know, I think it pulls you down a little bit more. And I think there's a message that we need to get out there and try and sort of weigh in on this and say, guys, it's actually okay to be okay, because the sooner you're okay, you're, like we said, you're in a better position to start helping others.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to say. And it's not the first time I've heard of that kind of survivor guilt. And it is a real thing, and it's a struggle. So you're struggling if you've lost your job, you're struggling if you find another job. And it's that being okay with it. And I think kind of just, if you can always see things from a different angle, like just try to see them from a different point of view. And the way I would see that is, hey, if you've got a job, that kind of gives hope to others. It gives hope that people are being employed. It gives hope that the guys out there keeping the airlines going, so that when things do pick up, there's going to be jobs for everyone else. If at that stage they still want them, so many guys have moved on and started new ventures. But yeah, that's, and it is guilt. It's like kind of, guilt for me is such a wasted feeling. It's like, what is it serving? What is its purpose? It's just not, like, let it go and think about it from the view of, at least the airlines are still growing and hanging on by the guys who are working, and the hope. I think more than anything, it gives hope to the guys who are still looking for jobs, going, hey, well, my buddy that I flew with has got a job, so his skills are no better than mine, and we're obviously at the same par and the same level. So there's hope that I may be the next one.
Yeah. So hope is an interesting one for me, because hope can also lead to delayed decision making, sit back, wait for something to actually happen, which a lot of people have done. So, hoping that an airline's going to get back up and running, hoping that a new airline is going to start, all of those things, they're great to have. But I also wonder in real life how valuable hope actually is. For me, it's kind of, sometimes you've got to step out of the emotional into the reality and say, I can live with that hope inside, but I've got to forge ahead in another direction should I logically sit and think about my current situation, the current airline environment, travel environment, what is actually going to happen. So I think hope is great. It has a place, but I'm also debating in my mind whether hope is a good thing to base an action on, because I'm not sure action comes from hope.
No, action does not come from hope, but for me, the opposite of hope is hopelessness. And I think when we're feeling hopeless, that's a very difficult place to move out of. But like you say, having hope, you can't base everything on that hope. There has to be the truth. You have to see reality. Like, it's pointless sitting there going, well, I've applied for this job, or I've had this many hours, and someone will hire me, and I hope that I'm going to get back to my old airline, or yes, you can have that hope, but like you say, you can't base everything, like putting all your eggs in that one basket. You need to take responsibility for where you are. I think putting hope into someone's going to call me from my own job kind of like passes the buck. And only when you start taking responsibility for where you are and start moving forward of your own will there be any change.
Right. Absolutely. The guys are probably sick and tired of hearing me talk about choice.
I am.
Well, you can choose to like it or not.
Well, if I was controlling this, I could choose to mute him, but I can't. So I don't have any choice.
It goes back to like we also spoke about Viktor Frankl today in this meeting that we had, and it was so interesting. Like, that was all he had, was the choice of how he was going to react to the way he was being treated. Viktor Frankl, for those of you that don't know, was a psychologist that ended up in the concentration camps in Germany during the World War. And he did a study on why some guys made it and some guys didn't. Why were some guys dying and some guys were living for years? And that was the biggest thing. That the book is called I'll get it back to A Man's Search for Meaning or something, Viktor Frankl. And his biggest thing was, it's people who have that choice, who believe that they still have the choice, no matter how they're treated, no matter what life throws at them, they have the choice of how they're going to react to it. Are they going to let it drag them down? Are they going to become the victims? Are they going to hang on to the hope that someone's going to call them? Or are they going to take responsibility for where they are and do the best with what they have in that situation?
I love that because, sorry, Brett.
No, go, bud.
But, again, that resonates with me so much because, take last year, for example. I mean, halfway into this lockdown, I was in a pretty dark place. I'm not shy to admit it. I mean, I was on the verge of probably making some very bad life decisions and going for a tattoo or something like that in this dark space that I was in because of all the bad nonsense that was happening. But again, I had to realize you've got a choice. You can either fight your way out of this and you pull yourself towards yourself, for lack of a better word. But it's only you. You have the choice to fight your way out of it and pull your mind right. So I love that. It's definitely a good sentiment to base on.
Can I talk now?
Yeah.
No.
Really?
Put your hand up.
Oh, dear.
Jeez, man. I think that's the longest I haven't spoken on the show. I'm getting anxiety here. No, but Angie, Ryan opens up an important topic there, something that we've spoken about before. Why is Ryan okay now and some other aviators aren't? What has he done? Why has his mindset gotten him to the point where things are not only okay, they're probably okay to the point where he's viewed his life in a slightly different light and probably looks at it and says, well, there were a lot of negatives in my previous life and I want to rectify those in my new one. And he's hell-bent on making sure that he pushes ahead with new plans and new ideas and a new Ryan Perrock, so to speak. What gives Ryan the impetus to do that?
Well, I can't really speak for Ryan, but
Nobody can.
I think that the biggest thing is it's that choice. It's the choice of how you're going to react to something. And sometimes, I think it's when you don't think that you have a choice that feeling of hopelessness comes about. It's as soon as you know that you have a choice to react in a way that could benefit you, benefit those around you. You could, and when I say the choice, it's this: you could be in that bad place and go, I'm going to shine my light in this room. I'm going to switch on a torch and shine it onto everything that's bad in my life. I'm going to shine it on all the negatives, shine it on, and that's kind of like putting blame. And or you could take that same torch in that same dark room, in that same dark place, and shine it on the positives, shine it on the things that you have to be grateful for in your life. Because no matter how low you go and how bad, whatever place you find yourself in, you don't have to look very hard to find the blessings and to find the things that are there, And it's what you choose. The choice is, where are you going to shine that light? Are you going to shine it on the negatives and the bads and the blame and the how could this have happened? Or are you going to shine it on the things that are positive and uplifting and going to help you move forward into the light, per se?
That makes sense.
Excellent.
I mentioned a quote by Josh Shipp. He's an author, and he came up with a thing. He says, you either get bitter or better. And I mentioned this a while ago. And it's as simple as that. People want something complicated, but it's not. It's very simple. And you can take what you've been dealt with, and you can either allow it to make you a better person, or it can tear you down. One of the two is going to happen. And potentially there's variance in between. But at the end of the day, we are born with free will, and choice is the tick box of free will. It allows you to decide how you want to react to a situation. And we spoke a little bit about Stoicism, and I love that you love philosophy, because it's so interesting. And if you look at Stoicism, control the things that react, or try and control the things you can control. The other things you can't control, don't worry about it. And as soon as you get that in your mind, it wipes out a whole lot of scenarios where you don't have to spend time thinking about, because you can't control them. So what's the point?
And the biggest thing is, yes.
Sorry. No, go ahead. I got it. Yeah.
Okay. So just on that note, quickly, something you said was about the simplicity. Is I think that we try to complicate things, or we just hang on to that complication. And actually, if you just pause, have this big pause button and focus on the simple things in your life. Go for a walk in nature. Go for, feel the breeze on your skin, or whatever it is. Those simple things bring you back to the moment, which is the right now, which is the only moment that you have any control over.
Angie, obviously you come at a slightly different angle with this too, because your husband is a pilot, is flying for a mainline carrier on the other side of the world. And of course, all this happened through no fault of his own. He finds himself back in South Africa, wondering what he's going to do next. And obviously, you've seen firsthand the struggles that a pilot can go through. And when we spoke last, I mentioned a few things we've spoken about a lot, like identity and things like that. And identity, I find a very real thing. I mean, we identify as being pilots. We've always been proud to say that we fly aircraft for a living. Whereas suddenly overnight, when you ask that question with another group of friends, they ask what you do, and you say, well, you're an airline pilot, they almost remark by, oh, shame, or what do you do now, And it's a very difficult thing to deal with. And I'm sure in particular for a lot of the guys that are flying long-haul big aircraft halfway around the world every night. So, you've obviously, had to deal with your hubby being a bit grumpy on one side, but you've also dealt with every day a pilot who's lost his job. On the other hand, I'm sure there's been a hell of a lot of positives that have come out of this whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure that, if things tomorrow, if we could flick a switch and things went back to normal, there's quite a few things that we could list on a piece of paper that we hope don't go back to normal. And I know being around family and that close to home is certainly one of those. For myself, I really don't know how I would react again being called out on a Friday night to go and fly excuse my language, Angie, but a fucked out old aeroplane to Bloemfontein to bring back 3 or 4 passengers for, a real rinky-dink operation. I know Brett loves that word. And
doesn't apply to an airplane. It applies to a person. Okay, rinky-dink. Okay.
I can't see myself doing that, and I'm not, and I'm glad, because in my own being and myself, it feels like there's been a bit of growth there, and isn't that what we look for?
It's
if we can
and
see the
Brian,
growth.
When you say identity, I think it's something we've spoken about before.
I think we're losing Angie there.
There she's back now.
I think I lost signal. Am I back?
You're back.
Yep.
Yes.
Sorry. Brian, so identity for me is the big thing that a lot of people are struggling with at the moment. Is like, pilots are really proud about what they do, and they've worked so hard to get to that point. And like you say, people have always gone like, oh, pilots, pilot or whatever. What was that one? Trevor Noah, like, my pilot, my guy. But now, what are you without the pilot pod, And the biggest thing with that for me is, and it's like if you had to look at a piece of jewelry, it's twofold. There's the beautiful ring or necklace or whatever it is, but there's also the gold that it's made out of. And that gold can be melted down from a ring into a bracelet, or from a bracelet into earrings, but the gold is never changing, whereas the piece of jewelry is. And I think if you can look at yourself like that, going, there's a part of you, an internal part that never changes. It's the gold. It always remains the same, regardless. It's that person inside of you that feels like you did when you were 16 or 18. Like that never changing part. And then there's the transient part, the changing, the gold, the jewelry, the bracelet, the watch, the earrings. And yes, the pilot is a big part of who you are, but it's changing. It's ever changing. We're Brian the dad, Brian the pilot, Brian the podcaster, Brian, that's ever changing. And that's the only thing that we can be sure of in life, is that things like that will change. But when you can connect with the gold inside of you, that constant, when you can find that, I think then you've got a good chance of moving forward, because that's the person you have to identify with.
But on that analogy, I mean, if it's a piece of jewelry that my wife would like, it obviously involves a diamond, and you could choose to view yourself as a diamond part, because diamonds are really tough, And I don't look like a diamond, but I certainly think I'm as tough as
maybe
one.
you're the coal. Maybe you still have some pressure to be under before you become the diamond.
I'm under enough pressure now, believe me.
I was gonna say rough diamond, uncut, but yeah. Actually, Angie's taking you down to a piece of coal, bud. There we go.
Yeah, no.
Angie, I wanted to ask you: or are aviators a special breed? Because if you deal with someone
Absolutely.
who,
yes,
I knew would do that. Oh, he's like, what a dumbass question.
Can you define the word special, Brett?
Yeah, special. Yeah, no, I'm not going to emphasize special, but I'm going to get in trouble. But but pilots generally are the ones who want to be known as pilots. They identify with a pilot. If you've got an administrator, a technical person, or whatever, they are. It's easier for them to move into another area and identify with that. Pilots struggle with that because there is that I don't know, a label. There is that confidence that comes with it. So I'm just noticing as I'm listening to you talk that pilots are just, I don't know, it's not so easy for them to actually say, I'm no longer a pilot.
Mm.
Are you picking that up with people you're talking to?
Yeah, a lot of people are struggling with, well, what am I if I'm not the pilot? And it's a tough one. I mean, it's work that has to be done by each individual. There's no easy answers out there. But the thing that I say is that you're not just the pilot. So for me, there's like layers in our lives, and the pilot is just one of those layers, and maybe the outside one, maybe the biggest, shiniest layer, one that everybody sees. But there's more under that. And, you know, when we can strip those layers off and actually get to the essence, which is the gold or the coal or the diamond, whatever you want to choose it to be. When you get to that essence of who you are, to being a pilot, great, but does it really matter?
Yeah.
Angie,
that's exactly what I'm thinking. Does it really matter? Because I can be a CEO of a company that does widget A, and then tomorrow I can be the CEO of a company that handles widget B. It doesn't really matter. And if I'm not a CEO, it doesn't matter because I'm still an entrepreneur. So at some deep level, this has potentially helped a lot of pilots turn around and say, well, I'm more than a pilot. I've got so much more depth to that. And not to say a pilot doesn't have depth, because a pilot does, but there is more to it. And this is an opportunity to actually show that.
Yeah. I think also what happens is, you know, we kind of like put ourselves in a box. I'm the pilot. And although that being that pilot is great, it puts a ceiling on who you can be, or who you can grow into, or it puts a ceiling on that development. You could be anything. But when you put yourself in this box, I'm a pilot, I'm a CEO, I'm a mother, I'm a whatever it is, it's your vision for yourself, and your vision can be, our own visions for ourselves can be very boxy and very narrow, and it limits us. It limits us to seeing opportunities. You know, when you're just the pilot, there's so many opportunities that might be going past you that you're not even aware of, or you're not even noticing, because pilots can't do that, or I don't have those skills, or you know, you just close yourself off to it so totally. And that's, if you can let, you know, kind of move out of that box, there are opportunities that you just need to see and be open to seeing. But sometimes we can be so attached to that, what we want for ourselves or how we think our lives should be. And we're so attached to those ideas that we don't, it blocks off. Like it's boxy. That's the only word I can think of.
Angie, ideally an interview, or not even that this is an interview, but you know, something like this could go on for quite a while, good hour and a half, I'd say. And it's definitely, like I said earlier, not going to be the last time we're on. Unfortunately, in South Africa at the moment, we're having our customary load shedding, courtesy of the African National Congress. And I can actually hear Alan McCauley, who's just commented here, quickly laughing there from Canada at the moment. But yeah, I know yourself and Ryan due to go off probably at 8 o'clock tonight. So I want to just skip a little bit ahead right now, so that anyone listening can actually hear, and we can get the point across that we need to. We've been advertising week to week. If you need support, if you need practical coping methods to deal with, you know, all this stuff that we've spoken about, pilots can contact you, or anyone in the aviation industry can contact you. You've got a nice link on calendar link where you can check available times. You choose a time, you'll meet them over Zoom, and you have a conversation. And I know that the few times we've had a conversation, I've always left the conversation feeling really good, not just about myself, but about the future as well. And there's a definite stigma around talking to someone, which shouldn't be there at all. The top sportsmen in the world, the top businessmen in the world, they all have coaches on call all the time.
Yeah.
And dating way back, I know, an example that I like because I used to see it a lot. I'm a big fan of Formula One. Michael Schumacher always used to have his guru with him all the time. And I remember saying to my dad, what's he there for? And it's all about, your mindset, making sure you're always in the right frame of mind, because we aren't always in the right frame of mind. So I also want to take this opportunity to encourage everyone to, not that you're going to be very busy, Angie, but contact you and have a bit of a conversation and see how different you actually feel afterwards. Because having a coach, having someone to talk sense to you, having someone that makes you feel more positive about the future, it's not only for people that are in dire need, people that are about to commit suicide. This is for everyone. Ultimately, we all want to be at that optimum level of our emotions need to be controlled, and we need to operate at that optimum level. And you are there offering your expertise and support to everyone. So if someone does click on that link and they book a appointment with you, what are we going to talk about?
Well, I mean, it's entirely up to the person that I speak to, what we're going to talk. The biggest thing is people feel stuck at the moment. They're feeling stuck. They're feeling like, the direction they were going in has taken a left turn, and what now? So we can talk around and sometimes just seeing things from a different perspective. It's not that I don't have the answers. I don't know what's right for you, or, but just talking through with someone who has a neutral way of looking at things. I'm not emotionally involved. It's just a really good place to see things from a different angle, shine a different light on something, create a little bit of hope and a plan forward. Each conversation goes so differently. And it really is, you lead the conversation. You talk about what you're feeling, and we just kind of maybe just look at it from a different angle, look at it from a different point of view. And sometimes that's all it takes. Just a small shift can make a huge difference to becoming unstuck in that kind of circular way of thinking.
Yeah, I love that it's not straight, this is what we're going to talk about, that it can be different for everyone, because I think we've all got little separate issues along the way. And I've been very lucky to have these morons around me all the time, Brett and Ryan, because we've been a strong support system for each other. I know my strengths are different to Ryan's and Brett's, vice versa. So we've used that to the max. I mean, there are times when we meet on a Thursday morning when we normally shoot out the podcast, and it's not always so straightforward. There's 3 different personalities in there, 3 different backgrounds, and 3 different goals for the future. And bringing those together every week has been a challenge, but it's also, I know all 3 of us have grown. And I've been lucky in that I've had that these group of guys, but not everyone does. And one of the things even worse than that is you can meet your mates down at the pub for a beer on a Friday night, but if those 3 mates that you meet are all in the same boat and they're all bitter about the aviation industry, and they all don't hold out much hope for the future, it can be a very vicious spiral down towards depression if you're not aware of that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to question, to question the truth for yourself. So if you're sitting in these meetings or you're sitting in these get-togethers, or it's to come home and say to yourself, was that helpful? Did it help me move forward? Yes, sometimes it's nice to have a good bitching session and complain about all the things that have gone wrong. And sometimes we need that to get it off our chests. But when you're going back there all the time and it's that same vicious spiral downwards, you have to stop and ask yourself if it's useful. Is it serving you? Is it getting you past the stuck place that you need to move out of? And if it's not, there's no harm in going, hey guys, I can't make drinks tonight, but I'll maybe catch you next week.
Exactly.
And especially when you're feeling low and in a dark place, you need to surround yourself with more positivity, more positive people, and just someone who can look at things from a different angle.
And
Exactly.
Angie, I just want to jump in there. I got a couple of comments. When you're in that situation, you can't do that. People are not going to ask themselves the right questions. You can't see the wood for the trees. You're never going to ask the right question. So, I've been fortunate enough, and I'm going to tie in Mike Mason's comment there that his number one passion is flying. My number one passion is flying. It always has been. I never had the opportunity. Things just worked out differently. But I will always look at an aircraft when it flies over, try and guess what it is. Wish I was in that cockpit, flight deck, sorry. And that is the truth for me as well. And I haven't had the privilege that a lot of you guys have had, being in the flight deck and, just living your dream. But at the same time, when you're sitting in a situation where you're under pressure and you're stressed, you will often turn around and say, I'm going to go to gym because I need to get exercise. I need to get my body in shape. That's going to get my mind in shape. I'm going to eat right because if I eat right, then I'm going to feel better. But so few people actually turn around and say, I need someone who's going to help me with this.
Yeah.
I need to sort this out first and foremost. And that is critical. And that's why I see the value in having a mentor, having a coach, having someone that you can talk to regularly. They are going to be the ones who are going to allow you to think differently. Ask those questions that Angie, you so rightly said, but they're not going to do it if they don't have that prompt, that advisor, someone in their life that is going to do that. And for me, if you don't have your mind right, it doesn't matter what you do with your body or your eating. You are still going to pull yourself down. So that's why I love that you're on here, because and if anybody is not making use of Angie, what's wrong with you? Doesn't matter what you're eating, how you're exercising. Get your mind right first and foremost. This is the time to do it.
Yeah,
absolutely, Brett. Somebody said once, and I can't remember who it was, but they said that your will to change must be bigger than your will to remain the same. And that's when change happens. That's when you'll reach out to the person and reach out to someone and go, please help. Like, when you've had that fifth piece of cake and you've gone, I need to go on a diet tomorrow, like the will to put those skinny jeans back on needs to be bigger than the will to have another slice of cake. And only when you reach that point, will you start making the changes. And the first change would be to reach out to someone. There's so many people available. There's so many platforms. There's so many call centers. And the call centers have put extra people in place because their numbers have just increased exponentially with COVID. So there's always somebody to reach out to. And it's never hopeless. There's always someone available to speak to. And it's important to just take the plunge, take the dive. Just like, I also think what happens is people get into like an anxious kind of way of thinking. And that could be the very thing holding you back. Like, what if I call out? I think one of the guys just said, no, that like, pilots don't cry and you don't want to look weak. And, it's just an idea. It's this thought of this, I can't show weakness and I can't reach out to someone, but it could be the best thing that you do for yourself.
Yeah. And I think,
Will
being
be
a
the
pilot
best
myself as well, most pilots, their closest mates are all pilots. Pilots in general, very seldom associate, I'm not saying it's like to be rude or anything, but most pilots just hang out with pilots because we talk the same language. We're all on that same sort of wavelength. So yeah, there's two things to that. One pilot doesn't want to admit to another pilot that he's actually going through a really hard time because they don't want to reveal that vulnerability.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think there's also this stigma out there where guys are worried that if they do go and talk to someone, then it might go on record. And when it comes time to applying for a job again, they don't want to have it on record that, like, listen, I had such a tough time. I went and spoke to a professional psychologist or therapist, kind of thing. So I think guys need to abandon those fears and accept the fact that you can certainly go and speak to someone and seek help from the right people, someone with the right advice who could put you in the right direction again.
It's a very valid thing, Ryan, especially like if you're wanting to get back into aviation. But I don't think there's any harm in speaking to a life coach. Like Brian said, presidents speak to life coaches. Top athletes speak to life coaches. It's not about the fact that you have a psychological problem. It's just maybe a case of trying to rewire a negative thought pattern or a limiting belief that you have and just kind of break that pattern so that you can move forward.
And that's where I think a lot of guys obviously have a bit of a misconception of the difference. Someone... we pilots. I mean, I didn't even know. I was going to ask the question just now. You said something about Stoicism. It's a big word.
Oh, that was great. That was a big word.
You lost me there.
I don't use words like that.
A lot of ordinary airframe drivers might just think that a life coach and a psychologist is actually the same thing, So
it's so different. So like a psychologist would help. Well, I mean, psychologists can also help you with being stuck and patterns of thought and stuff, but there is quite a stigmatism attached to psychology, and it's so sad, really, because I mean, I think we all need to take a hard, long look at our beliefs and our thoughts. And sometimes we have thoughts, and they like the loudest voice you'll ever hear is the voice in your head, and that voice is so loud that, and whatever it tells you, you're believing, but it's not necessarily always speaking the truth. Like, we don't have to always believe what that voice in our head is telling us. And we just need to sit back and go, hey, is this based on truth? Is this based on facts? No, it's not. Let it go. It's just a thought. It's not the truth.
Yeah.
Brett, Ryan obviously hasn't been reading enough about Marcus Aurelius to know about his Stoicism.
No, but
we'll have to educate him a little bit further.
None of that was in comic book format.
We don't have enough time in life to educate Parag. But anyway,
yeah,
we'll move on.
Angie, one of the things I haven't prepared this little question, but there was a podcast out a while ago in the UK. It was with Johnny Wilkinson, one of the famous English rugby players, and we were all sort of taken aback by that podcast because a lot of it was about it was about not sort of caring so much. We kind of understand what is what we need to do, and he was referring to being at a play fair and having to put a basketball through a hoop, and all these sort of nerves rush back that reminded him of playing in the World Cup for England, until he sort of started talking about it, and then you realize that, hang on, he's at a playground here having fun with his family. I mean, where are these other emotions and feelings and thoughts coming from? And it kind of dawned on him that, it doesn't really matter. And I know for me, one of the big things with this podcast, I mean, if we cared so much and we were so worried about what we said and what people might think about what we're saying, I don't think we would have carried on with the show. So you almost have to disconnect yourself a little bit. I don't know if that's right. Disconnect from the outside world and do your own thing. Wake up in the morning, ask yourself who you are, and not not Brian Rosevier, but that was a name that was given to me. Who am I, and what am I here to do? And we get to choose those things, and no one chooses those for us. We decide. And this pandemic has offered a wonderful opportunity, because it without doubt has been a mass reset, certainly for me. And it offers the opportunity to wake up in the morning and say, what am I here to do, and how am I going to do it today? Is there some, I mean, I can't go and give someone advice based on that. I've got to go say, listen to that podcast. But what can you say to someone to say, I don't want to say don't care so much, because that's not the right thing, but is disconnecting yourself from what other people think and what other people are doing a thing? I mean, we've started a podcast, we've got a YouTube channel, we do various things. It doesn't mean that the next pilot must go and do the same thing. There's something else that they can do. You kind of have to pick your direction and just go with it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be your passion right now. It doesn't have to be something you're going to do for the rest of your life. But more importantly, it's got to be something. You've got to do something. And that little thing, you know, it can help you gain a bit of momentum. And that momentum can help you, you know, change your thought process, which can lead to other ideas, which can push you down another path. I'm a big fan of being proactive and taking action, because I feel it's helped me a lot. What can you say to that? I'm sorry, it's a bit of a vague question, but I know when we spoke last, you spoke a lot about you know, taking a bit of action. So
yeah, the thing that comes to mind with that is, I think that we, again, going to these thoughts that we have, I'm the pilot and I'm going to fly at this airline and I'm going to fly that. So we get quite attached to that, and we get attached to our ideas of how we're going to get there. So the analogy I could use is like, if you take a river, its main aim is flowing into the ocean, and it comes across rocks and mountains and things in its path, and it doesn't try to flow over the mountain, it flows around it. And it may take a 5-kilometer detour around the mountain. Its destination is still the same. It's just the path that differs. And I think if we can take the route around the mountain and enjoy the scenery while we're going there.
Yeah.
And that the destination hasn't really changed. I mean, yes, COVID's had
load shedding.
Lost Angie for a second there. She'll come back shortly, I'm sure. We'll carry on chatting.
Yeah.
Like I said, load shedding at 8 p.m. tonight. Unfortunately, this live show goes so fast. I mean, 50 minutes already we've been chatting.
Yeah.
Sorry, Angie, carry on there.
Stop talking, Brian. Back. Angie's back. Can't you see that?
You cut off for a second there. Let me just mute old Preston over here. There, I've got him on mute. Oh, she's gone. Okay, let me unmute Brett. There he is.
Sorry about
unfortunately,
that.
one of the things with these live streams. Angie, you're back.
Angie, do you have Telkom fiber?
I'm not sure what I have. I think I have two kids getting onto their devices or something. But next
there we
time,
go.
if I get invited back, I will make sure I have a more stable connection.
Sorry.
Don't worry.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah. So anyway, I just think that the point I was trying to get to is that, you know, there's nothing saying that you can't still be the pilot, that you can't still have the dream of flying the big plane, whatever it is. Right now, you're just taking a detour, and it's not to say that it'll never be. I mean, like I said earlier, things are changing. Things change. That's life. And if you can enjoy the scenery on the way and learn something new, great. Don't give up on the dream. Just enjoy the ride, I suppose.
I like that, the detour side of things. I think that's very valuable advice. Yeah, a bit of a detour. It's up to you where you go back.
And you never know where the detour leads you. That's the exciting thing for me. When people talk about the non-attachment, as you've spoken about, non-attachment is not emotionally detached from a situation. It's just non-attached to the outcome of that situation. You can be walking down the street and see someone dying of thirst. A detached, emotionally person won't even offer them some water. A person who's non-attached is still moved to offer water, but if the person doesn't want to drink it, they're not attached to it. Whatever that person decides, it's okay. That's their choice. So the whole detour scenario that you're talking about is it may very well lead you back into the flight deck. Craig Wood led him straight back into the flight deck. But is it going to be a crisis if it doesn't? If it leads you to somewhere else? Yeah, why not?
Yeah, something.
Embrace
it. So you have that box, is it, if you think just out of that box a little and take a detour, you might end up somewhere that you never even envisioned because you've always been limited by this box that you're putting yourself in. Pilot, that's it. That's exactly all I'm thinking. Yeah. And it's never, not to say you never will fly a plane again, but maybe in a different way, in a different country, for a different whatever. You go, but only when you're open to those options can you take them. When you're in this box, you're very closed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like the guys from Harley Davidson, their caption phrase is life's a journey, enjoy the ride. And you kind of just got to view it as the same. It's we're riding something very different. Most of us aren't even riding motorcycles anymore, but I'm going to enjoy the ride nevertheless, and see where it goes.
Absolutely.
Tarek, stop talking, please.
Okay.
Well, I thought that was
you guys shut up.
I thought that was pretty profound. So
it was very profound.
Angie, if people want to get hold of you and they want to chat to you and set up a Zoom call, what's the best way to do that?
So I know that I do have the Calendly link. But you're the only one who actually has a copy of it, because I don't want to put it on my website, because that would obviously open anybody up to just be able to click that link. So I don't know if you can share it maybe on your Facebook page or on this. I'm not quite sure about the technical.
Yeah, I'll put it on the notes of this. Show.
The other way would also just be to reach out to me via WhatsApp. If you can get my details off my website, which is angiemcintosh.therapy.com. My contact details are all there, and I can send you the link, no issue. But yeah, the link isn't kind of available for just anybody to click on, because obviously I only have set aside so many hours in the day.
No, sure.
Angie, Brian, how does it work? Obviously you don't have endless amounts of time to give away, and your time is valuable. So how is it working? Are you giving someone half an hour just to have a discussion?
So what I've done at the moment is I have just opened up 2 hours a day in my calendar, which means I can speak to 2 people, because normally a chat would be like 45 minutes to an hour. Those days are specific. The hours are specific in my days that would come up on the calendar that you could book. At the moment, there are still slots available, and if it gets booked up or people are trying to get hold of me and there's no space left on my calendar, we can discuss. If people are in the position to pay for sessions, we can open up some more sessions for that. But I know a lot of people are out of work at the moment, so we could also look at maybe starting some kind of support group where people can, get together and kind of just chat on a weekly basis about what's working for different people, what people have done, just positive experiences that people have had, kind of the same as this, but maybe just more kind of interactive with whoever wants to be involved with that. But at this stage, there are still slots available. So I'm kind of just rolling with it, and I'm sure it'll take its course.
That's a wonderful thing that you're doing for the industry, Angie, on behalf of all the aviators that are not flying at the moment. I want to thank you for that. It really is a generous offer to offer someone's time to sit in front of a computer and listen to someone's problems takes a very, very special person that you really are. And I really, on behalf of the aviation community here, not only in South Africa, but around the world, I suppose, thank you very much. Like I said at the beginning, we jumped on the bandwagon. We want to support South African aviation. We even had a hashtag and all our stuff, support aviation. But what are you doing? What can we do? And we really put our heads together to say it's one thing to say it, but to actually offer time and effort. And we know it's not easy. You've got a family, you've got a grumpy, unemployed pilot to look after as well. Only kidding. Lloyd was supposed to be on tonight, but we're battling a bit with the fifth camera, but we'll have him on again soon. It really is a wonderful thing that you're doing. So I do thank you. And I really encourage anyone out there listening to contact you and have a bit of a chat, because we agreed on day one when we first spoke, if we can, help one person, then ultimately we've done our job.
Yeah.
And I think there is a lot of value in those group sessions. I think pilots in particular, if you can get a group of guys together, guys or girls, and have a chat as a group once a week, it helps you because it's not taking up individual time slots. And I think it'll be of great benefit to the aviators as well. The whole purpose of this live show has been to connect with the aviation community across the world. Someone like you that's offering support to those people. It really does tug on the heartstrings. Like I said, I'd like to go beyond this hour slot, but I am a little bit concerned about the 8 o'clock restriction here in South Africa tonight with the load shedding, courtesy of Eskom and the ANC. And all the wonderful things they've done for South African Airways.
We don't want Ryan to find himself back in that dark place again. So
yeah, exactly.
He needs to go light a candle.
Yeah, Ryan being the gentleman Ryan is, he's got his wife outside ready to pull the string on the generator there to get that fired up.
Truth be told, she's just fired it up already. My little trooper, she's done it for me, so I should actually be okay for a while.
Okay, good.
The interweb king, isn't it, love?
Yeah, exactly.
One last punt, guys, before we go. I want to just a shout out to Go Aviate. They've launched their app. That's all about connecting the aviation community. And I've been pushing this a lot because I believe in it, and I think it's a really valuable resource for all the aviators, not only in South Africa, around the world, to get together and even if it's bounce a few thoughts and ideas off each other. And of course, it offers us the opportunity to promote someone like Angie. If there's someone on there that's maybe battling with something, we can always forward your information across to them. So a really nice resource. Go Aviate, the app, available on the Google Play Store and on Apple App Store. Check it out, download it. If you're a real aviator, you'll download it. And get involved in the conversation. It's nice to have a central resource where we can all get together and have a bit of a conversation. It's so great doing this show. I love the live show. A lot of people are saying they prefer this to our later in the week, our sort of more formal show. And it relies on people being involved, people commenting. So all those everyone out there from across the globe, Alan, Andrew Evans, Jason Northwood, Craig Wood, Mike Mason, friends from India, they're going through a rough time at the moment. Ryan Beckley up to his usual self over there. It really is fantastic to hear from you all. Duncan, of course, Brandon Nathan, nice to hear from you. Janet's a big supporter. Gavin Hill, I think probably one of our biggest supporters. Cannot do it without you. It would be pointless doing a show that no one listens to, and we need it sent to this needs to be viewed by as many people as possible. So please share it. Send it to someone that you think might enjoy it and someone that you think might need it. I'm sorry to take the last few words away from you there, Brett. You know, I never thought I'd get a word in edgeways tonight, but we'll play a little goodbye video here. And then, Angie, you can stay on the line. We'll chat to you on the other end. For everyone else, thanks for listening. As always, next week, Tuesday, be back. Next week, Tuesday, we've got Jason Northwood. He's going to join us. We're not just going to talk about Go Aviate. We're going to talk about aviation in general. Great guy, a lot to offer. So, yeah, next week, Jason Northwood. You know, typical old Roosevelt here. Brian, there goes Angie. She's out. Okay. Yeah, she's gone. That's fine.
That's what happens when Roosevelt doesn't stop talking.
Yes. I was watching the timer go down.
I was watching it as well, bud, and you just carrying on. Yeah.
I was going to say, typical me. I put Ryan in charge of the rostering, and I jumped in on the rostering, but spoke to Jason earlier. He's going to be on the show next week. Good timing with the Go Aviate podcast. So to everyone else, thanks so much for listening. It really is an absolute pleasure. Love doing this. Not going to stop, are we, Brett?